Okay, guys, welcome back. I'm going to do a short video here on aging. Make sure that you listen to the whole video because there are several things that I need you to submit for this assignment. So this video is considered an assignment. So make sure you listen to the whole thing. It will also, of course, help with the quiz because I'm explaining some things. So anyway, so I am in, and I apologize, as you know, if you did a one-on-one Zoom with me, I have a computer here and I have other computers over here. So I'm looking back and forth as I'm talking to you. I just want to make sure I don't forget anything. So I am in chapter 13 on aging in the elderly. Make sure that you read the whole chapter, especially the part that I'm going to address right now, which is the third part there, 13.4 on the theoretical perspectives as aging. So when we're talking about aging, we're talking about people who are older. Usually we're talking about that. Kind of depends. Some textbooks will put people at 60 and up. Some, unfortunately, will put them at 55, which throws me in there. But for whatever number, eventually we're talking about people who are somewhere between 60 and 65. Usually 65 is considered the young old. 70 is the middle old, and the 80s are the old. But one of the things that, why we need to talk about aging, we've got the group of baby boomers who, are coming up, through time. And, baby boomers were all those kids that were born, right around the end of the World War. And we know that there was a huge amount of babies, born in the 1940s-ish to early 50s-ish. And we know that. I mean, census data tells us that. And so as this group has aged, there are more and more and more people in our society that are of this, this higher age. We know that. And now, please don't think I'm saying we need to get rid of all the old people. That's not what I'm saying. But when we start talking about things like Social Security and Medicare and the effects of those on our society, yes, we absolutely knew that this was coming. We knew when these older adults were born back in the 40s and early 50s, we knew it was coming. I don't think back then anybody really expected this group to live till 80 or 90, but they are. So when you're talking about increasing a group or having a group large in numbers that is also withdrawing on Social Security and using Medicare and all those things they're entitled to, it puts a strain on that. So that's part of the aging issue, is looking at, just the effects of that amount of people on our country. Now, I'm not saying we need to cut programs. I'm not doing any of that. I'm just looking at it from a sociological perspective and the well-being of systems that, Social Security can only sustain itself so long. Do we have other options for Medicare? Because, everybody that hits age 65 gets Medicare. So how do we do that? But anyway, what I want to talk about with you guys is the theories of aging. So of course, we're going to go back to functionalism, conflict, and symbolic interaction theory. Functionalism is the first one that's talked about in your book. And, functionalism is that what is the role or function of something in a society? Well, from aging, it talks about two theories. It talks about disengagement theory and activity theory. Activity theory, looks at the idea of the more active and involved an elderly person is, the happier he or she will be. And I'm going to use my parents a lot in this section as examples, just because it's something that I can use it as an example. So I haven't had you guys before, but my mom passed away a year ago, and I think my sister and I were both really concerned at how my dad was going to do. He took care of her by himself at home for over 18 months. And it took a toll on him, and a big toll on him. He would not let us do it. He did it. That's just how he is. But I think we both thought that once she was gone, he might go right after her. And he hasn't. We're so blessed to have Dad with us. But one of the things that has happened is quite the opposite. He's become back involved in local things that he was involved in. He's in Kiwanis. He does a lot of volunteering. He loves summertime because he just gets his fold-up chair and goes to all the outdoor music that he can get. I mean, it's just he's become involved in church. He's going to Bible study, all these things, and it's really good for him. He's out walking. He won't walk at the mall because those are the old people. That's his words, not me. He will be 79 in June. So, he doesn't think of himself as an old person. That's good. But he's out walking. He walks 3.5 to 4 miles a day, as long as it's not too cold, and is he happy? Yeah. I mean, he misses my mom, but he's happy. And I do think there's a lot of I think there's a lot of validity in the idea of activity. Now, it doesn't have to be just when someone passes away. It can be when, people retire. I have friends of mine that just retired. They were lucky enough to be able to retire young, and they've just been doing all kinds of stuff. Yes, they're the younger end of aging, but the idea is the more involved you are, the happier you are. Disengagement theory is when older people withdraw from society. And it might be their own withdrawal, or it might be that they physically can't do anything. It is natural as people age for them to withdraw from society. It's just something that happens. It's that kind of fascinating part of, and don't read into that either. But it's that fascinating part of the death process that it just like, we just know that, we start to pull back as we age. Our friends are dying. So people that you may have done stuff with in the past aren't there anymore because they're dying or they're sick or whatever. The elderly tend to not conform to social norms. I laugh every time my dad gets going on something. He doesn't care. He doesn't care what he's supposed to do or not do. He does whatever he wants. He's 79 years old almost. He's going to do whatever he wants. We don't push that conformity to social norms with people who are aging. But we expect people to withdraw. So, you guys may have had this in the last, year or so. Birthdays, holidays, whatever, are we taking away from grandma? Let's say grandma always held, Christmas or Thanksgiving or Hanukkah or whatever at her house. And, grandma, you're getting older now. We'll take care of that. One of the things that I just cringe every time I hear, grandma, you've done this for so many years. You don't need to cook anymore. You don't need to do all this stuff anymore for family gatherings. Why don't you just bring the rolls? You don't need to make all the pies. You just bring the rolls because that's an easy thing. You can go to the store, buy rolls. You don't have to be bothered with it. Part of that gets into, some ideas about how we as a society encourage them to pull back, how we don't encourage them to stay active. It's disengagement is normal. But then there's also continuity theory that the elderly make choices to maintain consistency. They want to remain active, but you know what? I remember my parents saying, they're not going to be on this particular committee or that particular committee at church because they don't like the people on there. Those aren't their friends. So nope, they're not going to do it. It is part of these ideas of what is the role of aging in society is about what the aging person is doing. But it is also because functionalism, what is the role of aging? We in this society, in our country, do not see the role of aging as being something that is a good thing. It's not like some of our traditional Asian families that look at the aging as the almighty, the all-knowing. That they're the source of wisdom, that they are widely and hugely respected. Not that you don't respect grandma, But as a society, we want those people that are aging to step back. We want them to not be involved in stuff. Think about every time you might say, oh, you're driving down the road and you see someone going really, really slow, can't see them over the steering wheel, and you go, oh my gosh, you just know it's somebody that's old. Good grief. Why are they out driving? And we make those kind of assumptions about people that are aging. We as a country do not put our aging up on this pedestal. We want them to disengage. We want them to step back. And that's not always a good thing, especially for the aging person. So that's part of this idea with aging. And I apologize, I'm flipping my notes over here. It's part of that idea of aging that as a society, in our country, we don't have that respect for the elderly, and that's too bad. Now, you might, and your family might, but in general, that's not how we in this country see people who are aging. We look at, so that was really functionalism. What is the function of the role of someone in society? Functionalism says the role of aging is to pull back. Conflict theory is always going to look at power and control, and again, the aging don't always have power in our country. They're not seen as a source of wisdom. So it's really that the young have the power and the old do not. Especially this age stratification idea that members of the society might be stratified or divided by age, just as they are stratified or divided by race or gender or whatever it is. And that different age groups have access differently to the resources, especially things that are social resources, political power, economy, etc. We're not going to get into the political discussion, but, as you think about, let's say, for example, President Biden is an older president. And one of the concerns is definitely that he is an older president, and if he would be reelected, would he be able to finish a second term? And again, it has nothing to do with what party you're in, and we're not going there, but he's an aging person, and it is one of those things that comes up in discussion about, could he do it? He's getting older. I don't know. Not necessarily that he's an aging person and he has a lot of wisdom. Is he an aging person? Can he carry this out? What happens if he all of a sudden doesn't remember his name because he's getting older or whatever? And again, I'm not trying to sway you one way or another. I never share my political views on things. But it is something that comes up, and I don't care if it's Biden or, President, whoever. Age is going to be a factor. Now, we talk about exchange theory with conflict theory also, that we experience an increased dependence as we age, and we become more dependent on people. And I think it's one of the reasons why my dad didn't let us help a lot with our mom. He didn't want us to see her needing his help. He really didn't like it when we tried to help. Especially there at the end when it took, two of us to move her or change her or clean her. He didn't like that. That was her independence that was gone. I can't even get into the discussion about how he's going to be when he starts to need our help. That's a whole other hot mess we'll deal with later. But it is part of why older people still stay home, why older people go to the store, why they are out shopping and they do their things and they go to church, because they need to feel that independence. They need to feel like they still can take care of themselves. And it's a hard thing because, especially with the group of people that maybe can't take care of themselves or they're getting to that point. I did make the mistake of asking my dad to get on Life 360 with me and my daughter. Oh, that did not go over well. You don't need to know where I am. Dad, it's not about keeping a track of you, but what if you get out on one of your walks and you fall? Because I know darn well, you put your phone in your pocket and you're not, maybe you don't have access to it, maybe you can't get to it, or, you know, what if you get lost somewhere? Oh my gosh, I never should have said that. You know, and we've tried to show him the good things about it, but I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out how I can sneak it on his phone without him knowing, but not sure that's going to happen. Anyway, symbolic interaction. This is all about how we see the aging. One of the problems that happens with aging is that we tend to treat the aging like they are babies, like they are kids. If you've ever watched people talk to someone who's aging, they talk really loud and they talk slow, or they call him dear or honey, and it's really kind of offensive. They, you know, and again, it depends on the situation, but you know, it's this idea that we see them as going backwards. You know, there's this whole thing out there about how when you come into the world, you know, you are taken care of by your parents and you are dependent on them for everything, and how you leave this world, you become dependent on your children, and they now take care of you. And but it's also, you know, this, how do we see the elderly? And many times we see the elderly as an inconvenience, as a you know, as a frustration, as a, you know, oh no, we're driving down the road and they're in our way, instead of looking at them as you know, as people who have been around the block, and, you know, they know what's going on, and that they're independent, and they're living their life as they should. So that's just some general stuff about aging and some general stuff about the theories. What I want from you guys, I want you in for this assignment, I want you to tell me about someone that you know that defies the stereotypes of aging. So for example, there's a lady at our church who just, I have always liked her. She's such a cool lady. She is 96 years old, and she is in church every Sunday. She drives herself. She lives home. She lives now she's at a retirement community, but she lives by herself. She drives herself to church every day or every Sunday. Now she's there early, you know, and she gets there early because she needs the front parking space. She takes the front handicap parking space right next to the door. But to look at her, you would never know that this woman is 96. You might think she's 80. Her brain is still intact. She is not confused. She's not anything. She will tell you how it is, like, but she's up, she's moving, you physically, she doesn't struggle at all. It's been, I mean, she's just, I just love her. She defies the stereotypes. You would never think she was 96. You know, think about somebody that you know, or somebody that you've seen that you feel defies the stereotypes of aging, and why do you think that? The second thing I want you to do is, again, go back to the symbolic interaction theories in your book. Don't just spit out what I talked about, but in your own words, tell me, read the book, because your answer is really more from the book. Tell me what symbolic interaction theory means about aging, and tell me one stereotype that you have about aging. And then finally, tell me one thing that you think you could improve in your interaction with the elderly, with the aging. What's one thing that you could improve? Okay. So that's it. Make sure that you submit this on time and reach out if you have any questions. Thanks.